Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is Amstel Gold 2024. Today's race, 253 kilometers, about 155 miles in length. It is the one race that I believe should be called the Monument. It's absolutely fantastic. The crowds are enormous. The course is incredibly technical and difficult. Islands all over the place when you're up here in the Netherlands. The roads are narrow. You go through underneath bridges that are super narrow. You have bike paths basically. When I did it in the 90s, nowadays they're slightly bigger, but not much bigger than the bike paths that they put us on in the 90s. It's a crazy course. You can never fall asleep here at Amstel Gold. Keep that in mind. Because when the cameras come on right away, it's about 90 kilometers to go. We're going to see Mathieu van der Poel at the back as he's jumping over some islands, going through some roundabouts, avoiding some traffic furniture. Then he's coming up to the back of the peloton. We start seeing him reach for something in his back pocket, and as he's doing that, he's got to hit the brakes hard because there's a crash right in front of him and the camera's just turned on. Most important rider when we see in this crash is Ayuso that won the Basque Country. He's wearing the #1 dossard. He went down hard for UAE Team Emirates, and he's got his teammate that didn't go down but did get caught up and held up back there. That's Almeida. Those two riders will find their way back on their bike and back to the back of the peloton, and then we start seeing the 4 breakaway riders up front. In that front group before, there's a Visma bike up there, but the gap's only at 135, so when I'm sitting on the Chesterfield, I don't give it any care at the moment, because when we go back and look at the peloton, it's curb to curb, and EF Education are lined up with about 5 guys on the right side. We look over on the left side, we look over to the right, that's Bahrain Victorious, and they're already riding the curbs here, and the cameras just came on. It's curb to curb, action filled all over, but Alpecin de Koninck have gotten up to the front too, because there's Mathieu van der Poel in about the middle of the peloton there, near the front, with his Alpecin de Koninck guys at the front. So, nervous, crazy, already the cameras just came on, and the breakaway at 4, they're about to get caught. Their maximum time on today's race got up to about 5 minutes. But like I said, at 1:30, I'm not even giving them a care. They'll get wrapped up. But let's go back and let's start looking at about 70 kilometers to go, because Quinten Hermans is going to go down in a crash. This is Alpecin de Koninck. Now, if I back the film all the way up, Gianni Vermeersch already dropped out before the cameras came on proper. So we got Gianni Vermeersch dropping out when they only have a 7-man team. Gianni Vermeersch is going out somewhere around 80, 90 kilometers to go. I never saw him on the camera. Quinten Hermans is going down with about 70 kilometers to go, but he's going to get back up, and he looks like he's okay early when we start seeing him getting to the back of the peloton. Now, everything's getting back all wrapped up together, but it's all crazy as the peloton is 100% nervous here. Then we start getting into about 60 kilometers to go. We're going to see the next attack. We see the attack, and it's going to be 3 riders going up the front. We see Vervaeke's in that front group. We see Mikel Honoré is in that front group, and Paul LaPeria from Decathlon's in there to make 3 riders. They're going up the road, but the gap is not getting extended much, about 30 seconds, 40 at the max, because the peloton's going full gas behind. Now, Alpecin looked like they've done a fantastic job when the cameras came on, because like I said, 5, 6 Alpecin de Koninck guys still in this race with under 90 kilometers to go. But once we get into about 55, we start seeing some problems up here for Alpecin de Koninck. Pretty normal if they had to ride the whole stage. But remember, cameras came on at 90, so I didn't get to see the other 160 kilometers of the race to see what they were doing and what the other teams were doing. But now with 55 kilometers to go, we see Oscar Riesebeck at the back. Then we're going to start seeing some other riders having some problems, because Axel Laurens is going to be getting dropped, then fighting his way back on from time to time. But Xandro Mayus, he came off the back just before Axel Laurens did. So that's 3 riders that are hanging at the back and coming out the back with 55 and 50 kilometers to go. And we got Gianni Vermeersch already out, and I already told you Quinten Hermans crashed. That's 5 guys out of 7. That's leaving Søren Kragh Andersen. Now, looks like so far he hasn't had any problems here at Amstel Gold. And of course, Mathieu van der Poel, who has been a shining light of hope through the classic season, and of course wants to be able to win up here in the Netherlands because he's from the Netherlands. And then he's got Liège-Bastogne-Liège coming. If he can win here at Amstel Gold, he'll have it with he'll have it with Flanders, and he'll have it with Paris-Roubaix to back it up, and then go into LBL as the big-time favorite. But a lot of people have said that Mathieu van der Poel is going to be using this Amstel Gold for training. I don't know how you use Amstel Gold for training, because I remember one time when my director sportif, Johan Bernil, he came up to me after getting second at the Basque Country and he said, "Hey, we really need you to win Tour of California." I looked at Johan, I said, I can't go do the classics with Amstel, Flesch, and Liège and then go with top form to California. It's impossible to come out of that week of racing, 8 days total of 3 incredibly hard races, and then do California. He said, well, I need you good at California. I said, well, I got to skip Amstel Gold, Flesch, and Liège if you want me good at California. I skipped those, and well, I won the Tour of California in 2011, so it was a good plan. So when I'm looking at Mathieu van der Poel sitting up here in fantastic position, all the way with under 50 kilometers to go as he's been losing some teammates out the back, and I see he's still got one good teammate there in Søren Kragh Andersen, and Quinten Hermans is always reappearing at the front all the time, and looks like that crash hasn't bothered him. I'm thinking Mathieu van der Poel can win Amstel Gold with under 50 kilometers to go as he's in fantastic position, and only 3 riders are up the road right now with a 30-second gap. Well, things start getting interesting with about 30, we'll call it 43 kilometers to go, and it's Michael Kwiatkowski throwing in the first attack from the peloton of GC favorites back there. This starts loosening up the peloton and starts reducing the numbers of the peloton, and it's going to cut the peloton in about half, but Mathieu van der Poel's following the attack right away there from Kwiatkowski. Jorgensen, the American rider. No Americans won Amstel Gold, but Matteo Jorgensen is directly on the wheel of Mathieu van der Poel right now, looking in fine form. That group will all come back together as the peloton, and the 3 riders will stay off the front. Now we start getting into about 36, 37 kilometers to go. This is when we're going to see Vervaeke from Pseudo Quickstep come out the back of the group. And we're going to start seeing some big-time attacks back there because Mark Hirschi, UAE Team Emirates, he's throwing in his attack with about 35 kilometers to go, and he's got 3 riders for company. The group of 2 up there from that original break of 3, they only have about a 10-second gap as we're going up this next climb. Then it's chaos in the peloton behind. Matteo Jorgensen's throwing in attacks, but he's getting pulled back there because we'll see it's Albacine de Koenig on the front wrapping back Matteo Jorgensen. Then we got attacks after attacks coming all over the place. Pale Bilbao slipped off the front. FDJ slipped off the front. Quentin Pacher, and he had some company. Those guys are all making inroads up to the group of 2 in front that's being chased by 4. And then we're going to see one last group slip off the front. Who's these 3 guys? Well, look tight in the left corner top picture here. We'll see that's Thies Benoot, Tom Pidcock's there, and Kevin Vervaeke is there from Arkea Samsic. With those 3 riders, they're the last to start bridging up to this group. All these riders are going to come together when we'll have about a dirty dozen up there with just about 28 kilometers to go. Now we're coming into the next climb as Thies Benoot is pushing the pace big time, and we'll see Mark Hirschi's looking on good form. We see 4 riders get away. The group of 8 behind, that was part of that 12, they're going to push hard and they're going to bring it all back to have another dozen riders still to go. We got the Kalberg coming up with 18 kilometers to go here at Amstel Gold. We see Mark Hirschi come out of left turn. He's getting on the pedals full gas. Everything he's possibly got. It looks like he's throwing into it because the peloton's still at about 30 seconds. They're being led behind. If I back the camera up just a little bit, we'll see that they had Michael Matthews, Jayco team up there, and Albacine de Koenig got back on the front with Quinten Hermans somehow. He's the last and sole guy left because if I back the film further up, we'll see that Søren Kragh Andersen got dropped somewhere around 35, 38 kilometers to go. So right now we got one Albacine de Koenig rider still left in the peloton pulling back there, and that's why when we hit the Kalberg with 18 kilometers to go, Mark Hirschi's throwing everything he is, trying to split this group up. The only guy that's going to come out of this group of 12, though, that's going to be EF Education's Mikhail Honore getting dropped out the back. That's going to put some pressure on the peloton. Now, the peloton's coming through that last left turn there to start the Kalberg proper. This is a famous climb here. They've used it many times. I remember doing it in the Road World Championships back in the 90s. As the peloton came out of that final left, this is when it starts getting exciting back there as Skilmos throws in a huge attack. Now, the peloton's having attack after attack all over the place. It's split up into multiple sections back there from the pressure going up the Kalberg here. And as we're coming over the top, you got a couple UAE team members back there swinging in the second group, trying to get up to the first group. It'll come back together as the peloton, but that group of 11 went over with only losing 1 rider. When we start looking at the group 11, they're all pretty much working well together, and they're going to work until we start getting into about 13 kilometers to go. Then we're going to see attack. It's going to come from Thies Benoot and Mark Hirschi. Those 2 riders are throwing in huge accelerations, and we'll see more events. Savinov, Pseudo, Quickstep. He made it up there when they were all bridging together in different pieces. He's part of this 11 guys. They're starting the last and final 13 kilometers here of Amstel Gold as he's swinging. Guys, he looks twisted. His head's bobbing all over the place. He's trying to find energy any way he can, but Tom Pidcock is just in front of him, closing all the gaps to put 4 guys in the front group here with just under 17 kilometers to go. Behind, they're doing everything they can, trying to work together. FDJ got not 1, but 2 riders in this front group. As we see, Valentin Madouas made the front group, and he's got some company from Quentin Pacher. With those 2 guys from FDJ, they're trying to hold everything together with attacks from Pale Bilbao going over the top of that climb, trying to go across solo, but he can't quite make it up to the 4 as Tom Pidcock's taking huge pulls. Thies Benoot's doing huge pulls. And of course, the fast rider there, Mark Hirschi, he's fast when it comes into a small group like this. He's doing huge pulls. Maury Van Savenot's coming through occasionally, but he doesn't have the best of legs, so he's doing more sitting and pulling. But with the 3 riders in front of Maury Van Savenot pulling full gas, Pale Bilbao's not going to close the gap. He's going to go back to the group with the 2 FDJ riders as they're trying to get organized back there. The gap is stretching out to about 13, 14 seconds as they start seeing the selection here at Amstel Gold look more and more realistic. We'll go back to the peloton. What happened? Well, after going over the Kohlberg, I told you that Mikhail Honore got dropped. So now EF Education are on the front, pulling with everything they got. That's Carapaz on the front and Ben Healy. Ben Healy was hurting when he went up over the Kohlberg, so you know he's not trying to race here for a final result for EF Education. Instead, they're racing for Maren Vandenberg back there, their sprinter who's already won here in 2024. They got 2 guys on the front. They got some help from Intermarché back there pulling too, but they can't quite bring down the gap to the 4 riders out front. That's about 30 seconds. That's holding about 15 seconds on the group behind them with FDJ's Quentin Pacher doing hard pulls and Valentin Madouas back there pulling with everything he can, trying to keep these things together. Now, as we start coming in the final climb with 7 kilometers to go, it's the Bimmelberg there, and it's not a super difficult one. About 900 meters, about 4.5%, 5%, so it definitely hurts when you got 155 miles in your legs, but they're only at about 150 right now, so they should be okay. As they start to climb, the 4 riders in front, they're basically staying together, but when we look from behind, it's Paul LaPeria throwing in attack. The decathlon rider, he was in the original break of 3 with 60 kilometers to go. Now we got under 7 kilometers to go, and the decathlon rider's throwing everything in he can. They go over the top, and we'll see the next rider that threw in the attack, Bach Mollema from Trek. He's trying to bridge up. We'll see the attack in front from Tom Pidcock splits the group. He's going solo there trying to win the Amstel Gold. Remember, he just a couple years back, he came up short in the sprint. Took 20 minutes to figure out who won it against Wout van Aert, but he ended up getting second on stage. Now he's trying to go solo, so there's no photo finish. But Thies Benoot's got other ideals as this Visma Lisa bike riders digging deep after the work from Mark Hirschi. We look back at the 4th rider, Maury Van Savenot swinging back there as Thies Benoot closes up the gap to Tom Pidcock with under 5 kilometers to go with Mark Hirschi. Now it's going to take a little bit longer, but Maury Van Savenot, he's the son of my old teammate Wim Van Savenot. He does one last hard sprint. Lucky for him, they slow down just a bit in the front. He'll catch back on to put 4 guys in the front. We look at the back. Paul LaPeria, man, he was almost back on if it wasn't for the attack from Tom Pidcock, because Paul LaPeria just couldn't quite close the gap. Bach Mollema ended up dropping back to the group behind. Paul LaPeria is going to get caught at 1.5 kilometers to go. Now we go to 1.3. This is the first attack from Thies Benoot. He throws in the attack for Visma Lisa bike. This is the one mistake right here from Maury Van Savenot. He closes the gap to Thies Benoot at about 1.2 kilometers to go. This was the mistake at this moment. If you're not a sprinter, if you're not the fastest guy, Maury Van Savenot, you got to let the other 2 fast guys, Tom Pidcock and Mark Hirschi, close the gap to Thies Benoot. You got to help Thies Benoot out. That might help you, because then you can follow the wheels. Instead, Maury Van Savenot closes the gap. We come into the 1 kilometer to go. Thies Benoot's stuck on the front. Then they're going to go a little bit wide. Thies Benoot's going to throw in another attack, and then we'll see Mark Hirschi and Tom Pidcock close it up to the left. Over to the right, Maury Van Savenot, he's got to go right now. Instead, he's still looking over to the left. He moves back in line there. This was his second mistake right here at Amstel Gold, because now he's given up any chance. He's not a field sprinter at all. Now we start looking at the group behind as they come out of the left turn. They're right behind the group of 4. They could still be caught. We get into about 400 meters to go. Everybody in the front group's looking back to see what kind of time they got. The group of chasers is hot on the wheels, talking 4 or 5 seconds back there. And the peloton's coming around. You see them in the picture too with just under 400 meters to go. Then about 390, 380, this is when Mario Van Savenhoff says, okay, I'm not going to win the sprint anyways. Let me get a top 5 here at Amstel Gold. He starts getting on the pedals, throws everything into it. As he's coming into the final 200 meters to go, from the back, we'll see Tice Benoot in 4th position. He's going to start a sprint at about 200, 200 plus as he starts coming up the right side, passing Mark Hershey there from UAE team members. He's going to pass, of course, Ineos rider Tom Pidcock sitting second, and then he's passing, coming up there to the leader there. Mario Van Savenhoff starting to blow. Well, 150 meters to go. Tom Pidcock throws in his attack. He's going left, right around there of Mario Van Savenhoff as the right side. That's Tice Benoot. They'll come out 3 wide with about 400 meters to go. I'll call it 75 meters to go. They're 2 wide. It's Tom Pidcock and Tice Benoot on the right side, but 50 meters to go. Tom Pidcock's got a little bit of a gap on Tice Benoot, but he's got a sprinter, the Swiss man on his wheel, Mark Hershey. We know he's fast. As Tom Pidcock gets under 25 meters to go, he's still leading at about 5 meters to go. He starts to sit up and he's celebrating a victory here at Amstel Gold. Second on today's Amstel Gold race will be Mark Hershey, the Swiss rider from UAE Team Emirates. Third, Tice Benoot. Fourth, just barely holding on for fourth there, is Mario Van Savenhoff, my old teammate there, Wim Van Savenhoff's son. And then behind, Paul Laperia end up winning the sprint from the group behind to get 5th on today's Amstel Gold race. Fantastic ride from Paul Laperia. And then the peloton's being led in fast there from Michael Matthews to get 10th here at Amstel Gold and round it out. Now, Mathieu van der Poel, what happened? I never mentioned his name. Guys, he covered some moves, but he never threw in one attack here at Amstel Gold. We look at the interviews afterwards from Mathieu van der Poel. He said he just didn't have the legs. He felt okay, but it wasn't great. His team were coming up short maybe with one guy, and you could see where you see Gianni Vermeersch. He wasn't in the race with 90 kilometers to go. Quinten Hermans crashed with about 70 kilometers to go, and then they started losing guys at 55, 50, and 38 kilometers to go with the other riders coming out the back. So when you see that, I still think Mathieu van der Poel, his legs, just like he said, they're not as sharp. He wasn't ever able to be put in that offensive attack, and he wasn't ever able to start covering attacks or follow the big attacks that were happening with 35 kilometers to go. He raced at the front intelligently, and honestly, up here on the butterfly effect, I think he looked pretty good. He never looked like he was really hurting to close gaps, but he just never threw in a big acceleration. Maybe he was using it for training. But like I told you guys a story when I won Tour of California, using Amstel Gold for a training race 1 week before Liège-Bastogne-Liège, I don't know if that's a good idea. But if you feel as good as he did at Paris-Roubaix and at Tour of Flanders, and you're just riding at the front group the whole time here, keeping your legs good for Liège-Bastogne-Liège coming up here next week, maybe that's his mentality. But his team, Alpecin de Koenig as a whole, guys, they got the job done. Quinten Hermans went deep, and he was there far into this race. If Mathieu van der Poel did have the legs, which he said he didn't, and I agree he probably didn't, otherwise he wouldn't have went across those gaps. That gap was only 30 seconds the whole time. So I think when I look at everything, Tom Pidcock, congratulations. It was a fantastic win after he crossed the finish line. You see him giving big-time hugs there to his man, Michael Kwiatkowski, that helped him out here at Amstel Gold. Kisses his woman, gets kisses from the dogs, then he hops up on the podium and celebrates his first Amstel Gold win here. And I believe, if I recall right, it's the first British win here at Amstel Gold too. So congratulations, Team Ineos. This was a fantastic and a big-time win here for Team Ineos. They really needed this. Tom Pidcock, he looked fantastic. Mark Hershey, back on good form. And of course, third place, Tice Benoot, Visma Lease Bike. Nice riding here at Amstel Gold. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. I'll see you guys at the next race for the Butterfly Effect real soon.